Okay, hello. Today we'll be going through a second ramen guide that I'll be making. This is a more advanced look into this scenario and some of the more niche mechanics within this scenario. So moving on to the first slide. So the first thing I want to talk about is the passive income, whether you do a 235 income or 334 income. In my previous video, I've gone through this 334 income, where most of the ramen choices that I made ended up with a 334 income. So which one is better actually? So let's go through it. Your ingredients and per turn is based off your passive income plus your rainbow trading income. So for 235, you are more able to hit X77 tradings, which is a lot more beneficial as compared to 334, which often hits 756 tradings. So by maxing out two ingredients at one time, you're instantly getting that ingredient and not wasting any gauge. So what do I mean by wasting a gauge? So what happens when you hit a +5 or +6 on the ingredient as shown here? The gauge does not overflow to the next ingredient. So the next time, let's say you get another +5 on this gauge, you'll actually realistically only be getting +2, which is the remaining 2 empty gauge. So which means your next turn, your income will cap at +1, +2, which means you are technically wasting your ingredient income. So by reducing the occurrences of these +5, +6 gauge, you have a more efficient use of your ingredient gauge in your trading. And what I've seen from myself and from other people online is that you get around +0 to 4 more ramen per year. Of course, this 235 is not a foolproof technique to reducing this +5, +6 occurrences. You still have to look closely at your income every single turn to make sure you're not getting into situations where you're stuck with a 5 or 6 gauge. So moving on to my next point, which is that universal ramen is much better than single target ramen. In my previous video, I've mentioned that I prefer the single target ramen, but universal ramen is much more consistent. So for example, in your bad turn scenarios, the universal ramen has a much higher chance to bring double rainbows. This is strictly for senior. For classic, you still do not want to use the universal ramen. It's pretty garbage. So in senior, you do want to pick the ones which have more than more universal. So the only thing you lose by picking this ramen is 10% friendship bonus, I believe, which is not that much. And this you'll be capping out the stats most time, at least for speed and stat for 2-2 compositions. So no matter what ramen, you at least has 2 target trainings. So for example, this is speed width, speed stamina width, speed width. So this will provide more consistent runs, and this combination is also a 235 compatible combination, which aids in your number of ramen you get per turn. So moving on to one of the more complicated techniques, which I'll call advanced gambling. Classic and senior ramen, if you have known, they will each summon one card in your deck to the selected training. So for example, if it is a speed ramen, you'll summon a random card in your deck to the speed training. So when do we gamble? And is there a way to actually manipulate the chances of a rainbow? And the answer is yes, there is. So moving on to the first scenario where you should gamble. Firstly, no good training. But the most important point is that Abayan is not present. So in this case, if you were to use a wheat ramen to summon a random card in your deck to wheat, it will 100% summon Abayan to your wheat, which will result in a wheat rainbow. So why this works is because the summon one random card will always summon a card that is not present. You'll prioritize a card that is not present to appear. And since there's a decent amount of roaming on wheat, which is your eye and your Doto here, this will result in a strong rainbow that is 100% chance to happen, which is why you should gamble on this turn. Moving on to the converse, when do we not gamble on this turn? So for example, purely hypothetical, this is a trading turn where there is not any good tradings and all cards are present. So your summon will be totally random. It will be a clone of one of your cards in your deck. There is no guarantee for which one. So even if you pick wit, you might not have a chance of summoning ever. You'll choose between these few to summon one more. So there's a low chance for your correct card to appear on your selected training which you want it to appear on. So do understand the way to manipulate the summoning mechanic of the ramen, and it's pretty important, especially in classic. Yeah. Thank you.